Hello everyone, welcome back to another NTW3 video. Today we will be covering the Camarades versus RD tournament battle. We will be viewing this from the Imperial perspective. So, the Imperials are being played by the RD team first. For Westphalia, they are being played by Alpha. We have a France 11 being played by De Gerard. Then we have France 10, Hispania, back here being played by De Uduno. For the Coalition, being played by the Camarades team, they have for Saxony, over here, they are being played by Topalad. We have a UK 10 Peninsular faction, being played by Lord Mastos. And we also have a Austria, which is being played by Mr. So, let's get this battle on the way. As we can see here, the Imperials are going to be marching most of their forces towards the central house over here, but the Coalition have managed to get here first. I have sped up a bit of the gameplay by 6 minutes, so we missed the start of the battle, but at least we get right into the action. So, as we look over the armies of the Imperials, we see that Westphalia has brought a decent amount of infantry with some elite light infantry thrown in there, and some not so elite light infantry, and some Westphalian grenadiers too. So, very balanced army. He also has a Cuirassier Guildsy unit, which is not the best, but is expensive and it'll hold the line for a bit. So, it's good. Back here we have the Hispania army that is marching up into position. Mostly a mix of light infantry, elite infantry, and some reserve infantry coupled with grenadiers, and some forward infantry there on the side too. Most of their Hispania's cavalry has moved up. They got... Ooh! Wait a second, what? That's interesting. Okay, so Hispania has brought his main general as the Cuirassier, or Lyons. That's an interesting one. Okay, not going to question that. He has 2 heavy cavalry units and a bunch of lights all around here. 11 Points of France has a good stack of infantry, you know, the usual France 11 builds. And he also has 2 heavy cavalry, including the Gros Cols down here, so pretty elite cavalry, yes. Yeah. Westphalia is going to be taking this sort of ridge line here, and is going to be trying to open up an assault upon the house, but the Austrians have managed to get there first. I think this one right here, and they will be able to garrison it with some Grenz infantry, which is light infantry. Westphalia playing very aggressive here at the start, charging in his Garde du Corps 31-man unit right into these insurrectos. This is an odd pick. I didn't see this. But while he's distracted over here, Britain's going to launch a counter-assault upon his poor Hesburg cavalry, and he's not going to see it, unfortunately, and he will lose that cavalry unit to the King's German Legion Hussars. So I think it might come back. It only lost 19 halfway. So yeah, even though he tried to be aggressive over here, he did, however, lose his micro in this cavalry unit. So a bit of a shame. Bit of a loss of that unit, but anyway. Britain seems to be shifting left with his army or cavalry to try and counter the flanking forces of both France 11 and France 10. Austria is holding the right centre, and he's already set up artillery here. That's going to be pounding upon this hill line against the advancing Westphalian army. Westphalia did not bring any artillery to set up on this hill line. However, I think he's going to be depending on this French artillery, the 6-pounders, which are pretty expensive and pretty good. So, yeah, there we go. The house has fallen to some Ungarashi Grenadiers, the Legion Info. Oh, and yeah, Ungarashi Grenadiers, perfect, right. So that's going to be a really, really tough nut to crack if they want to get through there. Skirmishing engagement. I'm just scanning on until some actual real engagements start. Saxony's army seems to be somewhere over here, judging by skirmishers, and he's just going to be holding the centre of the coalition. And we also see in the back, he does have cuirassiers. He's going to have the usual Saxon army, I guess. Yeah, so Prince Clemens, Chevaliers, and Saxon cuirassiers. He's going to have a lot of those. That unit did not come back. So no, Westphalia did lose one cavalry unit, which is a disappointment considering that they don't really have a lot of light cavalry to use. So, yeah. French artillery now set up on the little hill they have here, firing down upon the Austrian lines. Austria is just content to hold this position for the time being. A very nice cavalry charge here upon the unsuspecting Austrian cavalry. Splitting up your army like this is always going to lead for some micro problems, so Austria obviously was microing over here and he missed out on this poor insurrective Hussarian unit being charged by the Guard Hussarian. So, again, very good, very good. The insurrective Hussarian, though, are basically a throwaway unit, so it's not that hard of a loss. So, we'll scout on again. Saxony advancing across the field towards both France 11 and France 10. Seems like he was just trying to set up a line here, but the house was doing something to mess him up. But yeah, the battle lines are basically drawn up now, with France 11 seemingly wanting to make a push upon the right against this unit. They have deployed stakes here to deter from cavalry, so if they do want to send in cavalry, they'll have to send it around the flank. Ooh. And once again, cavalry, no, Westphalia does see it this time, so he's going to be pulling back over there. No, he's going to be taking the initiative, never mind. Alright, so the gun battle has been engaged. I have turned down the sounds a lot, so I might actually turn that up. Yeah, I'll turn it up just a bit. Just a bit. Anyway, so France 11 has engaged the Britons and the Hispania nation has engaged the Saxons with the Austrians as well. Hispania using a very blocky formation right now. Most of its units are, I think, 10-12 man deep, these reserve units. So, and he isn't using any infantry reserve. So this is a very, I'd say this is not the most effective fighting formation to be in lines. You want to sort of have a more spread out formation, sort of like this France 11 here. British infantry are now pushing up upon these France 11 units. It is, half of it is Garde Nationale, which are a militia type unit, so I am guessing that Britain's not really afraid of this line right here. It also seems that the British have artillery set up somewhere in the rear here that are firing down upon the French positions. Let's take a look from their perspective. So yeah, he does have artillery right here and is firing down upon the flanking unit, which has already lost 20 men. So over time, this unit will start to rout if not reinforced. The British small infantry units right here, these are light infantry, small, okay. So the smaller the British unit, I find, the smaller the British unit, the better they are in accuracy and in melee. So these guys are probably pretty elite, facing off against some militia units and stuff like that. And they're doing pretty good, as indicated by the dead bodies piling there. But again, these are national militia, so they are meant to be meat shields. The French artillery now targeting some cuirassiers, which is very good indeed. That is a lovely trade-off for the artillery. That and targeting generals, if you could get them. Targeting generals is allowed in this mod, by the way, everyone. Target them as much as you want. In fact, try and target them, because it really does help you win the game. Saxony brought the howitzers, so a very expensive artillery unit for the Saxons, which are going to be shooting from the safety of their lines into the French infantry. I'd rather this be actually shooting into the cavalry though, as that would be the most cost efficient use of it. But we'll see what it does. Anyway, British units now still fighting down. Over here on this flank, they haven't actually engaged the French infantry as of yet. But that makes sense, as on the left flank, it seems like there's mostly militia and Sicilian Chasseurs Britannicus. So these are more numerous British infantry. Ooh. Oh, there you go. What did I say about general sniping? So yeah, very well played to the British player who managed to see that the French General Jerome Bonaparte was in the open, and
our general is under attack.
They got him. And damn, look at that morale. And the howitzers are now finally opening fire upon these Cuirassier Orleans and doing quite a number on this massive blob of cavalry. But yeah, without a general now, these lines are starting to go down. They're getting down into the reds, the oranges. And once they start getting winded and tired, I suspect they'll have a lot of difficulty trying to get this line intact. But oh my god, look at that. So it seems like the coalition forces are sensing weakness here in the French 11 lines now that their general has been killed. And they are amassing a large amount of cavalry upon this flank. And France 11 has noticed this, and he is going to withdraw slightly. But again, wherever they move to, these howitzers are picking him off one by one. So far, he's lost 3 Cuirassiers here, he's lost 7 Cuirassiers there, a couple more Dragoons here and there. But yeah. Damn. I never really considered the Saxon howitzers to be that useful, really, but I mean, they're doing quite a number. They're annoying these guys by a lot. Anyway, back to the Westphalian flank, which is still being held into a defensive line. The Westphalians have managed to get a cavalry unit all the way in the back here, but it's a bit overextended. I would easily, as a coalition force, I would easily maybe send 2 cavalry units to get rid of that. The house is currently still being defended by the Grenadiers, I believe, and some Landwehr units. The Austrians here are not going to be able to push up against these French infantry units, so they're just going to hold their position right there for the time being. Most of the coalition's cavalry forces has been situated over here on the right and lost it. So it appears that the British player went in for a French light cavalry unit and managed to break it before the reinforcing dragoons could get in there. But he's going to try and go after the skirmishers right now, unsupported from any other cavalry unit. Britain is going to withdraw out of there because it doesn't have cavalry superiority. And here we go, here comes the rest of the cavalry moving in. Britain is going to move these these light units right here. And this, remember, this British flank is weak. There are no squarables, and they are all really poorly moraled units, let's say. So they do not have the best of morale. These are basically militia units for Britain. So yeah, massive cavalry being shifted up, but as well as the coalition now finding out that they've been attacked here, they are shifting to deal with this French assault. The Chevaliers Les Blancs, a very expensive light cavalry unit, has been thrown in to the Corps Provisional Dragoons. And let's see here. Yeah, the French center is not doing so good. It's trying to maneuver out. It's tired. It's winded already. Now let's look at this cavalry engagement. Slow-mo it. Okay, so British heavy cavalry going straight for the center. This is where it's supposed to be. Very well played. The Chevaliers are chasing down the dragoon units, which is now routed, and the morale penalty of these 2 routing units is going to affect the remaining light cavalry units here, and I do believe they will start breaking too. This one is definitely going to break. There you go. And this Hussars, if it loses a couple more, is going to break too. The Cuirassier, Gros Cols, are going to be going up against the Chevaliers Prince, and the Gros Cols should theoretically win this in the long run. However, it is not actually targeting the Chevaliers, it's targeting the British light cavalry unit. So, France is going to now countercharge with his heavy cavalry, and I don't know whether or not he's doing any friendly damage to these retreating dragoons, but French morale is not looking its best. The French cuirassiers in the centre are broken with 75 men, so only after losing, 18 men, I think, has it broken. And that is the power of killing an enemy general this quickly into the game. Saxony is going to push up more of its Hussaren, and Austria too is going to help out with it. To try and stop this Westphalian cavalry charge. But yeah, France has ultimately lost this cavalry fight by a large margin. And the Gros Cols are going to try and retreat out of there. The Garde du Corps, though, made a breakthrough here, and it is currently allowing for the light infantry, the elite light infantry, but it also has really good melee stats, to charge through here. Britain did form square, and as such, the Saxon cavalry is going to be going for this open Saxon infantry. Sorry, Westphalian cavalry going for Saxon infantry. Bit of FIM there, but I don't think that's intentional, and that is very unfortunate. In fact, that little bit of fire broke the Westphalian morale just enough for them to rout both units, this is honestly a shame, but to be expected. The infantry was very tired, the cavalry had no general support around. If you want to do an attack on these lines, you really need to have your general nearby, otherwise for Westphalia, they're going to rout really, really easily. So that's very unfortunate. This is a 600 gold piece unit routing at 102 men, this is a 1000 gold piece unit routing at 79. Very unfortunate. So, France has recovered some of its cavalry units. The Gros Cols have lost 50 men and is very tired, but they have managed to beat back the counter-assault by the coalition forces. Coalition, though, are not letting up. They're going to continue pushing forwards. And these poor Westphalian units, not with the greatest morale in the world, they're pretty cheap, but they don't have great morale. That is a bug. Yeah, that is a bug. He should notice this. He should notice this. Anyway, yeah, not the best morale. They are being shelled by the Austrian artillery, and it might actually... Nah, it's not going to rout, I think. But anyway, it's not looking good for the Imperials so far. With France losing its general, all of its units are not going to be fighting down to the effectiveness, and already most of its units are tired, and very tired, and this seems to be something that's happening a lot with people who play Imperial. They just run their infantry to the point of exhaustion. Right here, they're running again. You don't need to run. You really don't need to run. You want to conserve your stamina. Stamina is really important, especially now that you've lost your general. Let's take it back from the Imperial perspective. The French artillery on the hill is still doing work, but this artillery piece is now shelling the Landwehr, which is not a cost-efficient trade. If you kill 100 Landwehr, it's not going to make up for the cost of this artillery piece. You should really be shelling the Austrian infantry here, and it's a bit more expensive. But yeah, this one's doing good though. They're shelling the Ungarashi Legion Infernal, which is a expensive Hungarian infantry unit. France is now having to fall back. They have lost all momentum here, and they realise that they cannot attack without losing horribly. So they're going to have to rely on the defence. The main French lines in the centre, I think, are being shelled by artillery. And the Swiss are going to be the first to rout those foreign troops. I mean, this is really, really odd, because if the Imperials don't have any morale. They've lost one general from France 11. Their other general is a cuirassier unit without any stars. And the Westphalian general... Where even is the Westphalian general? Okay, well, just a bit of side note. The cavalry unit in the rear here, I think, must have gotten broken, because I cannot see them anymore. So, Coalition and Austria must have teamed up to take it out. Let's go hunt. There he is. So, no, that's Garde Corps. Where is the Westphalian general? I'm blind. I must be blind. I can't see it. That's not it. That's not it. That's not it. I've lost him. I've lost the Westphalian general. There are no generals to support anywhere. And that is going to hurt a lot. The Westphalian line's already been peppered. It's down at orange morale when it got hit over there. And again, France-Espagne is still using its blocky formation against the Austrian lines here. It's not doing him any favours. The Saxon infantry, though, have taken quite a beating, and they are down to half strength, most of them. They're not going to be that effective. France has unlimbered his artillery, and he's going to unlimber them again. The Legion Infernal on the flank here are going to be tricky to deal with, but if he sets up his artillery to start shooting down upon them, he should be able to easily get rid of this Austrian push. So, the Imperials definitely can still win this. They still have cavalry. They just could be very clever with it. On the left flank here, the Westphalian infantry, the Garde Nationale, and the Jäger Carabinier, who have run out of ammunition, I do believe, as I heard. Yeah, so these guys have actually run out of ammo shooting at the militia.
Our men are running.
Not really a cost-efficient trade still. So these two militia units are all that's left holding against this Austrian flank. And at this point, I would, as a coalition, I'd send these units out of the house and start attacking. And even maybe go after this artillery unit. But I think Westphalia, or at least someone, is going to try and protect the artillery. Yeah. Let's see. France 11 now getting stuck in a cavalry fight. The general staff is still alive, but he is not providing any morale boosts. I think maybe it has an inspire trait, so maybe these guys are getting like +1 morale build, but it's not effective. The lines are crumbling everywhere, and he's still trying to run his men away. But he has turned his back to the Austrians and the coalition forces, and they are going to try and pounce upon the left side of the French. And they're even going to go for the Westphalians, but Westphalia does have a square here. And here comes the great coalition cavalry charge straight upon the Imperial lines. The Imperials do not have enough morale, they do not have generals to sustain the front line, and there's going to be a couple of chain routes here and there. They did manage to beat back the Cuirassiers, who overextend themselves into a square, and they also beat back the Chevaliers, surprisingly. The coalition just lost their light cavalry, and they're about to lose their heavy cavalry. They're trying to withdraw it. A Saxon cavalry now going in, trying to stop this. There is no fimming going on. There are no orders being given. One French unit breaks. And the Imperial cavalry is still being kept in reserve.
Our men are running.
And here comes the chain routes. Yep. The morale is starting to be a really deciding factor here, as the Imperials just do not have the willpower without the generals to really sustain it. Another cavalry charge, a cycle charge back from the Hussar, are going to rout this Chasseur unit pretty soon. It's a pretty cheap Chasseur, so I expect it to go. And the entire centre of the Imperial lines have collapsed. However, France has done a counter-charge with its Grascals, and it's going to quickly try and, take advantage of the situation here, and he's going to charge straight down upon the Sicilians and the Chasseurs Britanniques. And what that's gone, this is going to be gone, that's going to be gone, all of this is going to be gone. So a very nice counter-charge here by the French. Let's see what they can make of it. The Brits managed to get cavalry into the rear, and it's attacking the Chevaliers. It's lost the Chevaliers. The British now have free rein to go into the artillery or the rear of the French infantry, but instead they're going to go for the Garde du Corps unit, the depleted Westphalian Garde du Corps unit. And even though this is a really elite unit, technically, it is going to break at 15 men. And the Hispania Cuirassier that contained its general has now routed, so that's even worse for morale. You won't have rallies now, or inspires for that. And the Corps Provisional Cuirassiers are fighting down, trying to stop this Saxon Cuirassier, which is infinitely better. It is going to rout, though, because it is being attacked in the flank. All its help is routing, and unfortunately, yeah, that is the French centre dealt with. They have managed to push through here, though, and complete a bayonet charge upon the British lines, so maybe they can deal something here. And I think there goes Hispania's cavalry general. So now the rest of Hispania's infantry, without its general, these militia Legion Reserve units facing off against the Cuirassiers are not going to stand long. And here we have some Hussaren even in the rear, so these Hussars can easily go for the French artillery here. And still, Westphalia running its men, for some god knows reason, running its men right in front of the French artillery, so that's great. Stop running! The Saxons have a great opportunity here to just farm down all these retreating units, none of which will actually come back, I think, except for maybe this 1ER Legion Reserve unit. Westphalia seems to have forgotten about its light infantry units here, and as soon as these cavalry units get close to here, they're going to start routing. And I think, yep, all right, and this one's going to go to just because it's all alone. His friends are routing. Yep, it's gone. Okay, and that is the French artillery dealt with by the cavalry charge over here. It is dealt with it. The French have actually done a combined bayonet assault with the Grenadier Guard. However, they have no cavalry to back this charge up. The Saxon garrison militia unit is going after the French artillery. But yeah, again, morale not the best. The Grenadiers are exhausted. Even though these are elite units, they are all three of them exhausted, and they cannot catch up with these L2s. The French cannot outrun the L2s. That's sad. Just gonna scan on a bit. Yeah, it's definitely looking like at this point France and allies have lost all their cavalry, and their morale's just plummeted without the generals nearby. I swear, the Westphalian general must have been like a cavalry unit back here or something. This one that roused earlier. Because they just had no morale and there was nowhere to be seen anywhere. So, with 23 minutes left on the clock, the Imperials will try and play for the LOC game. What happened to the... oh yeah. The poor Grenadier squadron of the Westphalians and French, these elite infantry units are being bombarded by artillery in the rear. They are now surrounded. And what an interesting formation that is. Yeah, they are now surrounded. They're going to try and extricate themselves, but they are being caught up by the L2 Deutsche Infantry. So I don't think they'll, even if they do manage to escape, Austria does have units right here.
Our men are running.
Ouch, yeah. Westphalian morale being so poor now that they can't actually stand in a gunfight. And these routing units are still giving penalties. France 11, after a successful charge, has retreated back to the 1 pointer here to defend it against the Brits. We'll see how that goes later on. But with the amount of infantry pushing on the Imperials forward, I don't think they'll be able to hold it. So let's check on the French. Yup. They are making their final stand against the British units. The British units are heavily depleted, all down to 50 men, and the French units are all pretty much healthy, to be honest. So they're going to happily take this gunfight. But again, the morale is a big issue, especially on this unit, which is very tired. Even though its combat judgment is pretty good. Actually, I think this is like 400 gold. I'm not sure about this one, but yeah. Morale's going to be an issue, and he's still running his men. What is with everyone and running your men? Just don't run your men. You're killing your army. Really, in a turn of battle, you're killing your army. Checking over here. The Westphalian Guard infantry has been encircled and they have been shot down. The remaining Westphalians and France Hispania are going to make their last stands here. But that is pretty much GG. I do not foresee the Imperials coming back for this. Well played to the coalition for acting aggressive on the French flank, and well played for them for sniping out the generals as quickly as possible. France, if they had the generals, maybe they would have had enough of morale to hold the right side for long enough for the cavalry to do something, but I don't know. It's going to be a very short video. I don't know, France 11 is going to try and hold here. It's going to do very well against these depleted British units, which are going to rout, and they're going to chain rout soon. Just because of how depleted they are. Yeah, there you go. Alright, there goes all the Brits. But even though they're doing really well in the gunfight, they have no cavalry. The coalition forces could just outmaneuver them, out-encircle them, and basically do whatever they want with this French line. Check back on the house. There is still 10 minutes left. I know, maybe. The Austrians really need to commence their assault on this bloody house sooner or later. They're content with bombarding it. Here we go. Saxony has pulled up its artillery. Oof! Ouch! And yep, here comes the Saxon cavalry charge, which is going to make them form square, tie them down, and they're out. And that is the France 11 army finished. The house is garrisoned by a combination of Swiss and French infantry. However, the Saxon general is nearby, giving his grenadier units plenty of morale support, and the France 11 last stand has been destroyed. As we look over here, the house has been bombarded down to 50%. The remaining French units here are trying to hold on for the fort and at least get 1 point out of this mess, but with the 5 minutes left on the clock, I do not think they'll be able to pull this off. These are reserve infantry. Even though they're active, they're not going to be doing that great against... Oh, these are garrisons. Okay, this is pretty much an even fight, but not really an even fight. And rest in peace. With 3 minutes left on the clock, can the Imperials hold on to this 1 pointer and get a LOC loss? The Landwehr units of Austria trying to make a push against this reserve infantry unit. They're going to get shot down. I mean, the reserve infantry units are pretty good when you think about it. They got really a lot of men, they're cheap.
Our men are running, sir.
Ungarashi Grenadiers advancing from the house all the way from over there. And they have entered the building against the National Militia. With 2 minutes left, this National Militia will not stand a chance. And Karl is even coming here to celebrate his victory. When Karl moves up, you know you've lost. GG. That is the house gone.
This building has fallen to the enemy.
I believe this last Westphalian unit, the Grenadier Corps, is trying to go for the coalition fort, I think, with 20 seconds left. Yeah, it is trying to get to the coalition fort, but unfortunately there is just not enough time and it's not fast enough. So GG's, here's the end results. Very well played, very well played. The Imperials tried to be aggressive at the start. They tried and they unfortunately failed. They could not make any seizable gains, and the coalition capitalised on that. So, well played to both teams. Thank you all for watching. See you all in the next tournament video.